December 1997. A Los Angeles orphanage had 7 days left before the county shut it down. The director had been splitting one asthma inhaler between 2 children. The water company sent a final notice. 47 kids were about to lose the only home they knew. Then, at 4:17 in the morning, a semi-truck pulled into the parking lot. The driver handed over a clipboard. Ruth stared at the label. 4 letters she didn't recognize. No signature, no explanation, just a code and a date. December 1997. Inside that container was enough hope to last a lifetime. This is the story of how Michael Jackson saved 47 lives without ever asking for a single thank you. The director's name was Ruth. She was 53 years old. Her back ached every morning from lifting supply boxes alone. For 8 weeks, she had been rationing everything. 1 bar of soap between 3 kids, half doses of antibiotics, dinner portions so small the children went to bed hungry. The pharmacy put them on credit hold in October. The last grant check bounced in November. By December, the water company threatened to shut off service. Ruth sat in her office at 2 in the morning, staring at a stack of bills she couldn't pay. She had 7 days to either find $15,000 or surrender the building to the state. She looked at the sleeping kids through the window. 47 faces. Some had been there since birth. Some arrived with bruises. Some with nothing but the clothes they wore. This place was all they had, and she was about to lose it. She didn't sleep that night. She sat at her desk, hands folded, whispering the same prayer she'd been whispering for months. Please, just a little more time, just enough to keep them safe. Before dawn, she heard the air brakes. Ruth walked outside barefoot. Her cardigan pulled tight against the cold. A semi-truck idled in the dark, engine rumbling like distant thunder. The driver stepped down, clipboard in hand. He didn't say much, just pointed to the paperwork. She stared at the delivery form. Under sender, it said, Heal the World Foundation. Under contents, medical supplies, clothing, essentials. Under recipient, her orphanage. Under authorization, MJ Project, approved December 1997. Her hands shook. She asked the driver if there was a mistake. He shook his head. Someone paid for expedited shipping. Someone made sure it arrived tonight. Someone wanted her to have this before morning. The container door screeched open, rusty, reluctant, like it had traveled through storms to get here. Inside were boxes, dozens of them, antibiotics, insulin, inhalers, bandages, thermal blankets, winter coats still wrapped in plastic, soap, shampoo, toothpaste, notebooks, crayons, a box of shoes in every size, another filled with stuffed animals, tags still on. Ruth sat on the concrete. The new cardboard smelled clean, sterile, like a hospital, like safety. She opened one box. Inside were vials of insulin, enough to last 6 months. She'd been rationing 1 vial between 2 diabetic kids for 3 weeks. Now she had 20. She pressed her hands to her face. Her shoulders shook. The driver asked if she was okay. She nodded. She wasn't crying from sadness. She was crying because someone, somewhere, had seen them. Someone knew they were drowning. And someone threw them a lifeline while the city still slept, with no cameras, no press, no applause. Michael Jackson didn't just send supplies, he sent a message. You matter. Even when the world forgets you, you matter. By 6, the kids were awake. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Someone screamed. Cardboard ripped, plastic crinkled. Then silence. The kind that comes when you can't believe what you're seeing. A boy named Marcus found a winter jacket, navy blue, his size. He put it on and stood in front of the mirror. He touched the zipper slowly, like it might vanish. He wore that jacket every day for 3 years, even in summer. When staff asked why, he whispered that someone out there thought he mattered enough to send it. A girl named Sophia unwrapped a stuffed rabbit, soft gray fur, button eyes. 2 months earlier, her mother had left her at the gate with a suitcase and no explanation. Sophia hadn't spoken to anyone since. That night, she slept with the rabbit tucked under her chin. It was the first time she didn't cry herself to sleep. Another child opened a box of crayons and started drawing on the cardboard. Flowers. Stars. A house with smoke curling from the chimney, the kind of house where people stayed. Ruth watched them. Their faces had changed. They weren't just excited. They looked different. Lighter. Like someone had lifted a weight they didn't know they were carrying. She stood in the hallway holding a vial of insulin and remembered something. Years earlier, maybe 1993, maybe 94, there had been a quiet visit. Staff whispered about it for weeks. No cameras, no reporters. Just someone kneeling next to kids, eye level, listening, asking questions. What do you need? What would make things easier? She thought whoever it was had forgotten, but they hadn't. They remembered. And years later, when they saw the orphanage was struggling, they acted. No announcement, no photo op, just a truck before dawn and a label that said, "I see you." Ruth watched them unwrap hope and wondered if the sender knew they'd just saved more than a building. Ruth never told anyone. She kept the shipping label in her desk drawer, HTWF, MJ Project, December 1997. She wondered if Michael Jackson knew how close they'd come to losing everything. The months after were different. The kids stopped wheezing at night. The water stayed on. The building felt like it was breathing again. She tried to send a thank you once, called the foundation. The number was disconnected. Whoever sent the help didn't want to be found. One night, Ruth typed an email to the LA Times. Subject, Anonymous Donor Saves Orphanage. Her finger hovered over send. Then she thought about Marcus, about his face if reporters showed up with cameras, about Sophia, who still flinched when adults raised their voices. She thought about what it would do to them if strangers started asking questions. She deleted the draft. Some acts of kindness are meant to stay quiet. This was one of them. The orphanage stayed open another 12 years. The kids grew up. Some went to college. Some got jobs. A few came back to visit. They remembered the container. They remembered waking up that morning and feeling, for the first time, like someone out there was watching over them. One of those kids was Elena. She was 7 when the shipment arrived. She remembered everything. The jacket Marcus wore, the rabbit Sophia kept, the crayons, the notebooks. She didn't understand what it meant back then. She just knew things got easier after that winter. Elena didn't know they'd been 7 days from shutting down. She didn't know Ruth had been splitting medicine doses. She just knew that December felt different, like something had shifted, like they were allowed to stay. Years passed. Elena aged out of the system at 18. She became a social worker. She worked in group homes trying to give other kids what someone had given her: stability, hope, a fighting chance. She thought about the orphanage often. She thought about Ruth, who worked herself to exhaustion just to keep them fed. And she thought about the container, the one that showed up in the middle of the night, like an answered prayer no one said out loud. 25 years later, Elena stood on a stage. And finally, she learned the whole truth. Elena was 32 when she spoke at a fundraiser for at-risk youth. She stood at the podium, hands gripping the edges, and told the story. She talked about growing up in a place that was barely holding together, about the night the shipment came, about Ruth, who cried in the hallway when she thought no one was looking. She said she never knew all the details, but the label said HTWF, and everyone in the audience knew what that meant. Heal the World Foundation, Michael Jackson's foundation, the one he built to help children who had no one else. The audience clapped. A few people cried. Afterward, an older woman approached. Her hands shook. She said she used to work logistics for the foundation in the 90s. She processed shipments like that, anonymous orders, expedited, no invoices, just coordinates and a deadline. She said Michael never wanted credit. He wanted results. She said he'd visit places quietly, listen, then make calls. A week later, shipments arrived. Medicine, clothes, books, whatever they needed. He never signed his name. He never asked for recognition. He just made sure the help got there. Elena went home that night and couldn't sleep. She stayed up until 3 in the morning, searching through everything she could find. Then she saw it. She found archived records from late 1997 and early 1998, grant codes, shipment logs, all pointing to December 1997, a Los Angeles children's home, amount undisclosed, authorization, MJ Project. She found old photos online, Michael Jackson visiting orphanages in the 90s, kneeling next to children, eye level, listening, candid shots, not staged. He was paying attention. And years later, he sent help to places most people had forgotten. She called Ruth. The woman was 78 now, retired in Arizona. Elena asked if she still had the shipping label. Ruth said yes. She'd kept it all these years. She didn't know why. She just couldn't throw it away. Ruth sent a photo. Elena stared at her phone screen in the dark. The label was faded, ink smudged, but beneath HTWF, in smaller print, MJ Project, December 1997, authorized. Elena sat on her couch, hands shaking, Marcus in his jacket, Sophia with her rabbit, the child who drew flowers on cardboard, how close they came to losing everything, and how one man, in the blue hour before the world woke, changed all of it. She never found his signature, but she didn't need it, because love doesn't require recognition to be real. Elena printed the photo and framed it. She hung it in her office next to a picture of the orphanage. She looks at it every day, a reminder that someone, somewhere, saw them, that someone cared enough to act, that hope can arrive in a shipping container before dawn with no cameras, no headlines, no applause, just a label, just a code, and 47 lives changed forever. Marcus still has the jacket. It's worn now, faded, but he keeps it in his closet. Sophia kept the rabbit. It sits on her bookshelf, one button eye missing. The child who drew on cardboard became an art teacher. She tells her students about the day hope arrived in boxes. They didn't need Michael Jackson's signature to understand the message. They didn't need his name emblazoned everywhere to feel his love, because he taught the world something most people forget. Care doesn't need recognition to be real. Kindness doesn't need applause to change lives. And sometimes, the greatest gifts are the ones given in the dark when no one's watching. Michael Jackson saved 47 children before dawn. He didn't leave his signature on the boxes. He didn't wait for a thank you. He just made sure they had what they needed. And that's how he operated. Quietly. Completely. With a love so big, it didn't need a spotlight. If this story reminded you why kindness matters, hit subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to believe again. And tell us, who was your Michael Jackson? The person who saw you when the world looked away, write their name below, because somewhere out there, someone's waiting for their moment of hope. And maybe, just maybe, you're the one who can send it.